Another quick video. This is regarding a subject that bugs me from time to time. People criticizing low height dipoles. There's two things that I keep hearing repeated. First of all, that life is too short for QRP, normally said by people that are running several kilowatts. And secondly, that low height dipoles are basically cloud warmers and useless. I don't think this is true. I've modelled this in the past, but it was some time ago. So I thought rather than set something up and just present my findings, I thought I'd do this live. I'm using Mana Gal. The reason for this is because I used to use Easy NEC, but that no longer works under Wine. The latest version has issues. So all I want to do here is compare a low height dipole with a higher dipole, one that perhaps realistically the average person could fit in their garden. And if we have time, maybe just look at a ground mounted vertical as well, because that's the other antenna that everyone says is superior to a dipole in some ways, for low angle DX especially. So let's have a look. Is it? Yeah. I'm kind of interested because I don't know whether I remember incorrectly. And I don't want to state things as fact if I'm mistaken, and I'm always happy to learn. But I did do some modelling recently. Not personal modelling, I'm nowhere near good looking enough, but some antenna modelling for my blog, where I was comparing a vertical with dipoles, just in terms of the low angle stuff. So I think I have a 20 meter dipole already here, ready to go. And I'm modelling it against real Earth, so it's not perfect, and it's not modelled in free space. I think it's about as real as a model can get. Lossy, I guess, in other words. So my dipole, much to people's amusement, is only 5 meters above ground. Now for a 20 meter dipole, that's a quarter wave above ground, which, okay, should be ridiculous, shouldn't work. It should be a dummy load. I shouldn't be working Japan daily. I shouldn't be working the States daily. I should be struggling to get to the UK from Finland. This is very much what would be classed as a cloud warmer. I'd be lucky to make it probably just beyond the border of Finland, possibly Estonia, Sweden, depending on band, I guess. I know this isn't the case because I'm working Japan every day. I'm working the States every day. So, but let's see. If I start another one of these, I'll load the same antenna, dipole, 20 meters. This one here, it's again modelled against real Earth. This one's my 5 meters. This one, what's realistic in an average garden? Would a full wave, a small tower on 20 perhaps be realistic? 20 meters, maybe. I'll say 10 for now, just to get a feel of what happens to the radiation pattern. So we start the model. And let's have a look at the far field plots. Now the low height dipole shows a radiation pattern not especially dipole-like. Perhaps this one. The elevation, yes. You can see that's a kind of dipole shape. But the azimuth here is kind of like an omnidirectional vertical. I mean, you can only see gain on the sides there is reducing. Well, on the sides, I say the sides in terms of the dipole, that would be the end points. The poles of the dipole. So really, when you're talking about a low height NVIS cloud warmer, let's say, you're actually talking about a pretty good omnidirectional radiation pattern. And we can see here it does decrease as you get lower to the ground. So if I'm talking Finland, I'm probably talking these radiation angles here. As I'm getting down to here, I'm probably talking further Europe. And as I'm getting right down here, I'm probably talking Japan, the States. So 10 meters, that's a half wave we're now looking at. We can see that the poles are really starting to squish in. So you can see the gain is really starting to, well, it's clearly visible. And in terms of the elevation, you can see we're having this effect. So the main gain is to the getting my words mixed up here now, the sides of the dipole, not the poles, the sides. And it's flat. Flatter. It's like a donut, which I guess is like a perfect dipole, really. So at 10 meters, the highest gain is about 30 degrees. That's 180, isn't it? So about 30 degrees off the ground. 150 degrees there. So if we go to the same 150 degrees... So on my quarter wave height dipole, at 30 degrees, I've got a gain against the isotropic ideal radiator, doesn't matter what we call it, of 3.6 dB. On the higher dipole, it's 6.9. So 3.6, that's just below 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a 3 dB, just over 3 dB difference, which is half an S point. Is that a big deal? I don't know. Maybe it is. Depending on who you're working. It maybe is if it's something's just down in the noise floor, then that half S point could be the difference between working them and not working them. But I would say in a typical QSO, half an S point I don't notice, really. So let's go down to an extreme. Everyone says DX is at 5 degrees. How true this is, I'm not sure. But let's go down to 5 degrees on both models. On the 5 meter raised dipole, we have a gain of -10. On the higher one, a gain of -4. So that's 6 dB. So that is an S point difference. So maybe that is coming to the point where you might say an S point is enough. That's the difference between, again, S0 and not heard. Or if you're in a noisy environment, you know, S1 or not heard. If you're talking S5 or thereabouts, 5.4, does that make a difference? Probably not. But when you're looking at this, suddenly our cloud warmer, which is useless for anything apart from local talk, is really anything but. It's not as gainy on the lower angles, but well, I'm going to show my... Do I have some sort of paint? I could use GIMP. I guess GIMP would be a... I'll show myself up now with my mathematical misunderstanding or lack of mathematical skills. But let's create a new... Right. That'll do. Okay. So, this is the Earth, albeit the flat Earth. Let's ignore that for now. My mathematics is not so great. And if I start modeling curves, then I'll quickly fail. So this is me and my antenna, which is some sort of dipole strung up against the trees. This is another station, perhaps with another dipole. Up here we have, let's say, our different layers of the atmosphere, the ionosphere. I'm not totally sure now on the different heights, but let's say D, E, F. I can't write using a mouse. Now the F layer we know varies between, I think, 150 and 400 kilometers. So I'm going to choose 200, just as a rough figure. So this signal from me and that's the remote station. So if I'm working this station, my signal is radiating something like this. It starts to get refracted, and then hopefully it comes down around here somewhere. So that is the height, which we know, I should have said this is kilometers. So if we know the height of this, and we know the angle that we're modeling here, we can calculate this distance. So let's say 50. Let's pick an angle, say 25 degrees, maybe. That's a nice round number. 25, that's 180, 160, 155 degrees on this. And 55 degrees. That's 6.7, 2.6. That's 6.73. So yeah, 4, 5 dB difference. But let's talk about our sky warmer, cloud warmer. So we know that this angle is 25 degrees. If you can read that, it looks like a... Try this again. Try and write number 2. So we know that's 25. We know that this is a right angle. So that makes this angle there 130 degrees. But do we need to know that? Do we need to know that? Somewhere I have a right angle calculator. No, we know the height of the angle we're looking at, which is 25 we know the angle we're looking at, which is 25 degrees. Just imagine this triangle is flipped, and that's the one I'm drawing here. So this is looking at this half, but it's the same as this half. So we know the angle is 25 degrees. We know the height is, say, 200. We've chosen. That makes the base 428, and we're talking kilometers. So 428 kilometers. But of course, that's only this triangle. We need to double that. So you're talking 860 kilometers for our cloud warmer at a 25 degree angle. So let's go down to the point where it really starts to drop off. 170 degrees. which is 10 degrees above the horizon. So we're really talking dx now. Getting towards that point anyway. So, yeah, -4 plus 2. So that's 6 dBs difference. So that is... so it's 3 dBs an S point, isn't it? So that's 2 S points. Yeah. 3 dBs an S point. So that's 2 S points difference. So that is starting to make a difference now. You may, if it's a very distant station, you could be talking about losing them in the noise. But let's go back to our calculator. Let's say 10 degrees. In fact, I should have varied the height, but let's go calculate 10 degrees. So we're now talking over 1,000 kilometers or over 2,000 kilometers. We're still working over 2,000 kilometers, albeit with a 2S point difference compared to a dipole that's a half wave above the ground. So let's go back to where our gain was a little higher, 25. And remember, we're doubling this figure. So we're back to working about 1,000 kilometers. But sometimes the F layer can be higher. So when it's 400 kilometers, our cloud warmer is now working 900, 1,800, almost 2,000 kilometers. Almost 2,000 kilometers difference. And this was, did we say 25 degrees? 60, 55. So 3 dB, say, and 7 dB, 4 dB, oops, 4 dB difference. I don't think this is an issue, and I don't think this is a cloud warmer. Sure, up here, it is warming the clouds, but if you're interested in working local stations, like I am, then this is a good thing. The fact that you still have good signal in this kind of range here. I mean, let's take another example. This is really starting to dip here in terms of gain. Let's go in a bit more. So that's 120 degrees. From here, that's where we're measuring, 120 degrees. $120, so that 180, so that's 60 degrees off the horizon. 60 degrees, we're seeing, yeah, 5 dB difference. So that's 2 S points for local QSOs. That's an immediate 2 S points difference. But is that just local? I mean, what do we mean by just local? In this case, we're talking an angle of 60 degrees off the horizon. We'll go back to our original assumption of 200 degrees for the F layer. Let's see what it says. 100 kilometers, which doubled 200 kilometers. 200 kilometers, well, that's... I'm British. I still end up converting back to miles. Yeah, that's 100 miles. It's not bad. When I was in the UK and I was on 40 meters and I was wanting to work around the UK, my main interest, in all honesty, was working around the UK. I've never been so much into DX. But yeah, all the time, 40 meters, daytime, evenings, my main interest was UK. So let's... this starts to make a difference. Again, let's go for the higher estimation of the F layer. And we're talking 400 kilometers, which is, yeah. See, it depends on your idea of local, and I can understand that when people in the US are talking about low height dipoles and they're saying, oh, it's just a cloud warmer, for them, when local could be 1,000 kilometers, and how wide is the US? I mean, maybe we're just talking different perspectives here, and maybe when people say, oh, it's 2,800 miles wild, so wild, it's wild as well. 2,800 miles wide. So maybe when the US are talking about local, they're talking about US, and their DX is a different continent. In Europe here, when we're talking about local, we're typically talking about within our country, within our bordering countries. I don't think... I mean, sure, when people are calling DX, they still mean a different continent. That's fair enough. But I just think maybe our concept of what is considered local is perhaps a little different, which maybe explains these discussions and the confusion. But let's quickly go back to our model. This is our half wave high 20-meter dipole. Let's go to a full wavelength high. Now this is where it really starts to look like a dipole. Well, a dipole with ground reflections, I guess, is the explanation for this, the lobes here. So this is the kind of donut field forming around the dipole, which would be across here. So we have very little radiation, in my case, to the north and south. For me, it's all east and west. But the elevation plot here, you do start to see some gain on the higher angle, which will make it better. I've just been saying a quarter wave or a half wave dipole is not great for local work because of the complete lack of any sort of gain upwards. But the higher dipole, you do start to see some gain here, which is better. But of course, a full wave above ground on a 20-meter dipole, that's perhaps realistic. On a 40-meter dipole or an 80-meter dipole, probably not. And I will just load... I've got a vertical, 20-meter vertical. You can see it is just a vertical, and we're modelling above the real ground. There's no height because it's ground mounted. Somewhere here I've got verticals, or is that... I can't remember what difference this makes, whether I use radials or just the real ground. I've tried it with both and I can't remember. But, oops, I don't want to optimize. I want to look at far field plots. So, we're back now to talking about our cloud warmer, quarter wave high, NVIS 20-meter dipole. And here we've got our ground mounted vertical, which is, according to everyone else, superior for low angle DX. And you can see that it kind of is compared to this. But let's go at 10 degrees above the horizon. Minus 3 dB on the vertical against the ideal isotropic radiator, whatever it is. Our dipole, which our cloud warmer dipole at 10 degrees is minus 4 dB. So that's 1 dB difference. Minus 4, minus 3 at 10 degrees. So suddenly, when you're comparing a vertical which is meant to be ideal for DX, a ground-mounted vertical for DX, against an antenna which is meant to be terrible for DX, you start to see that maybe it's not so bad at all. And let's go down to 5 degrees. To 5 degrees. Minus 6, minus 9. Well, minus 7, minus 9. So that doesn't look like much difference at all. I want to... Let's say we go for 16 radials. And see what difference this makes. That seems to have pulled our gain pattern downwards, if I'm correct. Let's load the vertical on this side. So this is just modelled against the ground without the radial model. Has it made any difference? That there is crossing over 127 degrees. Minus 1 dB. Minus 3 dB. Yeah, so that is indicating that the highest gain point, gain on that model should be higher. 1.1 dB versus 0.3, minus 0.3. So this has actually got gain higher than the isotropic radiator. So yeah, radials really do make a difference, but we're not talking a huge difference. And let's go down to 5 degrees over the horizon. We see a gain minus 6.8, minus 6. So radials do help, but not a great deal. I'm kind of curious now. I'm maybe going off the subject slightly, but let's go to 64 radials. I mean, this is getting like diminishing returns now. But we're suddenly seeing some huge gain, 3 dB. 3 dB. Almost 2.8 dB over the isotropic in the highest gain points. So 3 dB, that's doubling of power. And yeah, half an S point. So it's interesting to play with this. Some time ago, I was talking about antennas. Someone else mentioned cloud warmer NVIS being a waste of time, and whoever it was I was talking to turned around and said to this guy, "Have you actually modelled this? Model it, and then come back to speak with me." And I thought, well, I haven't modelled it either. I'm just assuming NVIS, sky, cloud warmer. It's throwing all the radiation up. You have the radiation from the antenna going upwards, and then you have the reflected radiation that's being emitted from the antenna hitting the ground and bouncing straight back up at a high angle. That makes sense. But of course it's not, because you've got this dipole. That's the dipole. This is the ground. So you have the RF emitting down here and bouncing straight back up. But of course you have all of this. All of these angles. So it's not just firing downwards and upwards like this. You have radiation coming here and bouncing that way. And of course, you know, in the big scheme of things, your dipole is here. Your radiation is doing this. Looks like a hedgehog. That's the ground. And I mean, at the extreme point, you still have radiation bouncing off the ground at low angle. So it is a bounce. It's not directly radiated, but I don't think... Tell me, what am I doing wrong? I'm always wanting to learn, but I'm happy that this is reflecting what I thought I modelled a long time ago playing with antennas. although admittedly I didn't model this a long time ago for NVIS. I just modeled antennas and I was playing with heights. So am I misunderstanding something here? Are our concepts of what is local just different between countries? Or am I doing something wrong in the modelling? Because it could be any one of these things, but I've put my thoughts down here. Hopefully this has helped explain things. Maybe it's helped people learn. Maybe it's helped people figure out where my misunderstanding is, in which case I would absolutely love to hear from you. If I've been doing this wrong and you can explain and I can recreate different results, then I'll happily do another video and credit all those that gave me the input. But yeah, this is the sort of thing that interests me and the sort of thing that I would like to explore in a little bit more detail. And maybe even do some talks on this or something, if I can get some more data to back up the model, if it's correct. So let me know. Thank you. Thank you for putting up with me again. This is, half an hour. I tried to keep this short, but I've been nattering on for 30 minutes again. So this is Steve, Oscar Hotel 3, Sierra Papa November. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you on 73s.